I am in my last year right now. And yeah, I am a student ambassador as well. So in today's session, we will be going through introduction to web development. And inside this, we will specifically build a bank project. And so as we get started, this series is organized by Microsoft Learn Student Ambassadors. So, thanks to them. And if you want to become a student ambassador, there is a link down there that you can see, aka.ms/MLSA. So there's, of course, so many benefits of becoming a student ambassador with Microsoft. And some of the great things is you'll also get to learn a lot from different types of student ambassadors. And we have a great community of talented people that you can interact with. So yeah, let's get started. So in today's presentation, or rather in today's session, we will look at the banking project. And in this bank project, we will look at how we can use HTML templates and routes in a web app. Yeah, and then secondly, we will look at how we can build a login and registration form. Third thing we will look at is methods of fetching and using data. And fourth is concepts of state management. So these are some of the things that we will be looking at during our whole presentation. So I would also like you guys to all join in. If you have any questions, like while we are doing the session, please feel free to send it into the chat, and I or Abu Bakr shall address it. Right? Can you see my screen again?
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Okay. So for today's demonstration, I'll just show you what our end result will look like. And this is going to be like our final goal of this session. So this is the web application that we will be building. And as you can see, there is a part where you can log in, or you can choose to register. And when you register, you can have a username, and I'll go with a sample one, like Manav1234, just for reference. And for the currency, I'll just keep dollars, and the description is, my banking application.
Sorry, Manav, I don't know if it's on my side, but I can only see like the poster, the event poster. Like we can't see the other slides.
Okay, I've reshared the screen, I think now.
Not yet, not yet. I think maybe you may be sharing a window, not the whole screen.
I'm sharing the whole screen.
Oh, okay.
Okay, let me try sharing the window then.
Yeah.
Okay, now do you see anything? Okay, not yet. That's really weird.
Can you like stop sharing for like a minute and then try again?
Okay, I've stopped sharing now.
Funny thing, we can still see like the event poster. I don't know why.
Okay. That's weird.
Maybe I'll share. Yeah, it has stopped. Maybe you can reshare again. Okay, so Manav is rejoining the call, so we can give him like a minute. Okay, as we wait for him, maybe I can ask a question because I see like it's so quiet. So one question, who can tell me the difference between HTML and CSS? It's a simple question, and I believe we had a session about it in our series, web development series. So if you know the answer, just raise your hand and then you can unmute and yeah. Alvin Boya.
Hello everyone. It's Obonyo.
Yeah, sorry.
The difference, it's okay. The difference between HTML and CSS is that HTML mostly it's about making a certain page, and CSS is about styling the page. An example is the Wikipedia site. That's the best example I can give. So HTML, if you use HTML, you'll create something like the Wikipedia site. The way you see it, it's just words and it's plain white at the background. That's the work of HTML. While CSS, you can style the page. Maybe you can put whatever you want, maybe a rainbow, maybe you can just be as creative as you'd like with the side of CSS. You can put colors, and that's that's the difference between HTML and CSS, if you ask me.
Yeah. Perfect. I think that's the correct answer. Awesome. So I remember our last session we were doing HTML and CSS. So does anybody like have a project? Maybe you can say that you did from that session as we wait for Manav.
Okay, I'm back.
Anyone?
Hello, Abu Bakr.
Yeah. Welcome.
I'm sorry, man.
Yeah, so we were having here a conversation. So I asked a question like, does anybody have like a HTML or CSS project? Maybe you can share. Alvin again.
Thank you again. Mine is not necessarily a project, but I've actually been working on coding my CV as Julia did earlier. And
Yeah.
I actually wanted mine to be slightly different from what she was doing. So I'm not as conversant with CSS, but there's a part, like in her CV, her background was actually white, and I actually just wanted to tilt that a little bit. I wanted my background to be black, then the words. Although that is it. And I also kind of tried to do something, but it was like earlier in the year, but I stopped halfway through. I wanted to make like the Premier League table, but again, I don't know why I stopped though, but the colors and the whole articulating of the colors of, let's say, the Premier League to the simulation of what I was doing, it was kind of, okay, got some challenges and I left the project halfway done. But on the one for the CV, yeah, I'm looking forward to finishing it. And yeah, those are the
perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Personally, I believe the best way of learning anything, even web development or software engineering in general, is by doing projects. So yeah, you're on the right track. Keep going. And maybe you can share the link of your project in our WhatsApp group. Maybe we can help. So thank you, everyone. Manav is back, so we can continue with our session.
Okay, thank you so much, Abu Bakr. And sorry, guys, it's probably my internet. So yeah, I was showing you guys a demo of the system that we will be creating. I believe this time around you can see it. Okay. So
yeah, we can see it.
Pardon?
Yes, now we can see it.
Okay, cool. So I've kept a sample username. Our currency will just go with dollars, description banking application, and our current balance. Let's say I have $10,000 in the bank, even though I don't. But let's just say for example, right? So once you register, it should take you to this page, which you will see shortly. Yeah, so as you can see, it took the balance that we entered in. And, with this balance and what we want to do with our application this time is we want it to help us manage our bank balance kind of a thing. So in this, you can also add a transaction, and it's basically like your journal, right? So if you're adding a transaction, you can choose a date, and let's say you added more money. So let's say you got a gift from someone. So let's say a gift from Abu Bakr, and then let's say he gave you $50. So you can just write 50, and once you press OK, you see it will increase your bank balance to like 10,050, and it will also show you the transaction that yes, Abu Bakr is the one who gave you a gift and on this date. Then let's say if you want to remove something, right? So you can just write bought burgers, right? And let's say to do that, you used up $10. So once you press OK, oh, sorry, that's an error. Okay, bought burgers. And as you can see, we've written that when you purchase something, you should be able to minus that amount from your bank balance. So for us, we will write minus, let's say 20 this time. So once you do that, you see it will subtract from your total balance, and yeah, so it shows you your journal and your current bank balance. And of course, you can log out of the system and log in again. So yeah, this is the project that we will be looking at this time around as an introduction. So yeah, allow me to. So as we get started, right? For me, I'll be doing the project on Visual Studio Code. You could do it in one that you prefer. So let's get a project started. And yeah, so what I have created is an empty. It's an empty file right now. You see, the index.html is empty, style is empty, and app.js is also empty. So these are some of the things that you will require while you're making the application. And I will also share with you one zip file so that you don't need to build the whole server again and again. and I'll share it. I'll share the server file with you, and you just paste it in your code. So let's get started. First, we'll start by writing the HTML and the CSS, and after that, we'll go back into the functionality, right? So, you know, the normal HTML things. So I believe you guys have, of course, used HTML before. So you've seen some of these tags from before. Now, this line number 7, where we're linked, this is used to link the CSS files. So that as we go on with the project, we can continue designing how our app would look. So first of all, what we want to do is we want to create a div, an empty div, even an empty div, okay? So we'll give the empty div an ID, and we will call it app. Now, why we are doing this is we will be using templates. That's a new thing you guys will learn, or maybe you've encountered it before, but we will be using templates in our project today. And you might wonder, like, why do you need templates while you're working? So templates are really helpful such that you don't need to create several pages for several different HTML files to show different screens on your application and on your web application. And that's where we will use template. So that when we use templates, we will be able to pass in the data into this div. So first, let's start by creating a template, right? And to create the template, you just have to use the tag template. So we'll also give it an ID, login, to create the, so we'll create the login part first, and then we'll go on to the next part. So yeah, I think if you can follow up, and if you have any questions, then please send them on the chat. Okay, so these are some of the divs we're creating, and we're assigning them a class so that we can create that hierarchy, and we can also pass in some styles later on. So our title for this will just be a simple title, whatever you want. You could have that there. And I'm also going to share with you 2 files right now. Just a minute. Okay, so for some reason I cannot share documents, but okay. So after that, after you put any title, you can also put in a logo for yourself. So from your own pictures gallery, you can also use the image tag and put yourself a logo that we will use inside the application. And this is just basically how I'm styling mine. So there'll be the title squirrel and then the logo and then banking, because that's how we'll do ours. So yeah, that's for the title part. And next one, we'll move on to the actual login container. And here we'll have another class to cover the content, right? So login content. And inside here, we can put our heading or what we can use. So for me, I've used the tag H2, and then I've aligned it using text center and kept the title as login. So after this, now this is basically just the title that we have created, right? Now to get the user's login details, we will create a form. And that's the second part of the presentation that we will cover today, how you can use forms and get data and pass data around using the forms. So we'll create a form. And we'll also give it an ID, let's say login form. So inside our login form, we'll just have username. So for now, we'll have one input field only. Okay, so this is the input field that we will use. So it's just basically a text box that can allow maximum of 20 characters to be entered in, and we will label that field as username. So this is the form where people will enter their username. And along with that, we will also enter a button that people can use to submit, to log in, basically. And yeah, so that's the first part that we will use. Then now, just to preview what you have done, one of the things that you can do is run this file. And I don't know if I mentioned it, but we will be using Node.js servers in our application. So I'll just navigate to where you have saved the folder. And for me, this is where I have saved my folder. So when you come here, you can just basically open it in CMD and write npx lite server. So this will allow us to have a preview of what we are building as we go on. So by that time that continues, I think we can continue to our part. Okay. And if you remember, so after the first form that we have of entering the username, we have then asked, do you want to log in or do you want to register? So we'll also cater for that part. And here I've just kept something that we can use to write the OR. And then comes the next section, which is of registering the user. Okay, and this is our server. So right now it looks empty because we have used templates and we have not passed the templates directly. So just for you to preview it, I will show you how you could do that. So all you need to do is you just hide the template part. And here you will be able to see what we have done, right? So that's one way of previewing basically what you have done so far if you don't want to do it with the templates directly. So then next one, we'll continue with the form. We'll add the next part, which is registration. And yeah, so that's the form we'll use for registration. So registration. And if you guys do get stuck or have any questions, then just please reach out to me on the chat. Because I'm assuming these things you've previously done them, so I'll just go fast a bit. So these are basically what we've already done. It's just similar to what we have had in the previous things in the login part, where you're just having a label and an input field. Like for example, here we have the username and then an input field for that, currency, and then an input field for that. So that's basically what we have done in this form. So now once we're done with this, let's now try to style what we have done, right? So while styling, one of the things that we will first do is we will set the styles that we'll use across the whole page. And how you can do that is just by having a root that covers all these, the new styles that you're having. So some of the things that we will use is primary. We'll use this in our text as we go in front. And
Manav,
yeah.
Sorry for interrupting you. I saw a question that
Yeah, sure.
I wanted you to address. So someone asked Gregory, what's the purpose of the empty div, the one with the app ID?
The app empty. Okay, so you see, this is templates, right? Now, when you use templates, you'll basically be, this data, you'll not see it until you push it into the empty div. So what we're doing with this empty div that we've created is we will do like conditional rendering, something like a conditional render, where if you want to render only the login template, then this login template is the one that will be sent to this empty div over here. And when we create the second template of dashboard, then that empty dashboard, that dashboard will be sent into this empty div. So we'll basically be using the browser's DOM to transfer data in and only show what the user needs to see based on the request that they send. Did I answer your question, Gregory? Okay, cool. So we'll continue with our styling. And for this, for primary, we'll use color blue. So I have previously already written some of the basic styles that we will need. And I'll also send them to you on the chat. So if you want, you can have a similar, you can have a similar one as well. So this route will just basically be used for, styling the entire document, right? So now let's move on. We'll style the whole page. Marks, border marks. And then we'll style the HTML tags to have zero margin. So basically what we've done here is we've just set the margins of the whole page that we have right now to 0 and the padding to 0. And we've given it a height of 100%, which means that it will cover all the content that we casually add in to it. So yeah, and then as you saw that our body was color blue, so we'll also add that. We'll add some font stylings that we want, to have a good and, a good looking page. So yeah, and then you see this H2 that we've written for this one, right? For the titles of the page, we will also style that. So we'll just directly style both of them together. So you don't need to actually write everything every differently. You just write for all H2s together. So as you can see here, we've given the color is primary, right? So that is where now this part comes into play, where the variable primary is what will be used to color this code. And yeah, so font weight, we want it to look bold. The text should be in uppercase. Then font size should be 1.5 rem. And why we are using rem is to make the page responsive, right? So even if you change like your page to increase the, you zoom in, you zoom out, then the text will resize itself. Then we will also style the form. And this is how I chose to style the form according to my preference. You could, by the way, you could change your color scheme if you want. You can change what you will ask from the user, and you can change everything, right? This is just a sample that I'm showing you. So yeah, this is our form that we'll create. And again, for the margins, we're using the ones that we've already created before. So it's just basically passing them as variables. Now, if I want to change, let's say in the future, I don't need to keep looking for where I styled it. Rather, I just come here and I change this. So you could also do that, and it's going to be much easier for you as well. Then we'll also style the input fields as follows. And again, we've passed on margins that as variables. We've given it a fixed height of the input field, and we've given padding as variable that we've written here at the top. So yeah, this is just basic styling that I'll also share with you. I'll share this file, this folder with you later on, so that you could practice on your own as well. And then we'll also style the labels that we wrote above the input text fields. So here we've basically given it the color gray, and we've transformed everything to uppercase and reduced their font size so that it can look good. Then if you remember, we had a button for signing in. So we'll also sign that in. And this is how you can style your button, in which we've given it a background color, the text color, we've given it font weight. So you could style your button differently. There are different ways of styling your buttons. Maybe you could change your colors, or how big you want it, how small you want it. So that freedom is also up to you. And then we'll also just add some hovering effect, right? Now, if you want to hover, well, you want to give hovering effects, you just have to write the button and then on hover. So once you do this, and when the user hovers over the cursor, over the button, then they'll see the pointer cursor. Then now, once we are done with the general styling that we will use everywhere, now let's go into styling our actual login that we created, the login containers that we created. For the login title, that's why we've passed on the name. So as you can see over here, we have this login title, right? So this is what we first want to style, and then we'll go into styling all these different things. So first we'll style the login title, and we'll give it a good size that's responsive again. And the coloring and margin is still the same as we had written before. So yeah, that shouldn't take the time. And then next part is the logo, right? So for me, the image I used is the fixed image. So the image that you insert for your logo, let's say you're creating an app for a business. So you can have their logo and pretty much continue styling it, like how big you want the logo to be and things like that. Then next one will cover the CSS part of this whole section, the section that we've created. So this is how you can write it. We'll give it display flags, a height of 100% so that it covers everything. We'll align the items to center and so that it looks good again. And you can of course play around with these different things how you want to style it according to you. And then next we'll style the login container. That is this part now that has our forms and the headings. So for that, again, we'll just give it flex and we'll give it a maximum width. Now we'll give it a maximum width so that our content, that whatever we put in, it does not get out of that our container. So to maintain the width, we'll give it a fixed width of about 480 px. And if there is an overflow, then you can look up how the overflow CSS style works. It's basically, if you put hidden, then it will hide the overflow. If you put fixed, then it will keep showing you the overflow. So for us, it will do auto so that it adjusts with the width and the height. And then next, we'll just also give background color to the content that we've kept. Now, that is for the whole form part that we want to cover. Guys, if I'm too fast, please let me know so that I can slow down and explain to you if you want. Now we have this login separator that we have used here. So this is basically, as you saw, that first we want to have a login field, and then after that we want to have a register field. So to make this separation different, we'll also style it like that. And yeah, that we'll need one more thing, which is styling the span that we have inside here. So the or, we need to style the or. So to do that, we've made it a fixed position, like a relative position. And we've also given it a top margin of 0.5 EM. Now that is, again, making it responsive, and so that when you change your design or when you open your web application on different devices, then it can render accordingly, right? So this is basically the styling that we have as of now. And now what I want us to do is we now look at what we have done so far. So to do that, sorry, just share my screen again. Okay, so this is the page right now, and as you can see, it's empty, right? You cannot see anything, and that is because we have used templates. So as I told you before, one thing that you can do to style this, to see what you're doing, is you just basically comment out the template tag that we've written. And then there's this template. Yeah. So now we should be able to see some of the fields that we have. And yeah, so that we'll see some of the fields once we put like a good background color and everything. Now, this is basically styling your template. So when you load the page, this is what the user will be able to see. And just for the sake of the people who joined a bit late, what we have done here is we'll use screens, right? So we'll use kind of like conditional rendering. So for that, we've used the template tag. So this is the template for the login part. And with this, you'll basically be able to, log in to the system and all that. So that's one template. Now, as we move forward, we also want to see the dashboard, right? So once you log in, you need to take the user to somewhere, and that somewhere we will create another template for that. And this time around, we'll call it no, not template, dashboard. Okay, so having two different templates will allow us to have two different screens. And by screen here, I mean, you do not need to create a login.html. You do not need to create a dashboard.html separately. You can have both of them in one HTML file like we have here, right? So, and also that's where George, if I'm not wrong, no, Gregory had asked, like, why do we need this, right? So where you need the empty div. So that's now where we'll use JavaScript and we'll force the DOM to push in this data into that. So now let's write some HTML sample code for what we can use as the dashboard side. So we'll do it pretty similar. The structure will be pretty similar, where you have a section and then you have these other divs that follow in. Okay, so I've fast forwarded a bit. Now, what you see here is again pretty similar to the structure that we made above. So there is first a section and then we have a header. Now, this header is basically going to be on top of our page. It's basically where the navigation bar goes in most of the websites. So that's why we've kept a header. And in the header, it's basically the logo again. So you could reuse the same logo if you want. And if you're integrating this with someone else's website, then you could have a different navigation bar style. But for us, we'll have a really simple one, which has the logo, the name, and a logout button. So this button is what we will use to log out of the system. And then, okay, once you're done with the header, we'll just move forward. We'll start creating now like the actual content, right? So if you remember, we had a part that showed the balance. So we want to show them the balance that they have. So for that, we will create again another div that shows them the title balance. And here now we'll basically create a span. Now, why we've used spans here is we will use JavaScript and we will replace these two spans, right? Now you've seen how it's empty, right? So once the user would enter their currency and their balance, then JavaScript will retrieve that balance from the registration form and it will display it over here. So the user will basically be able to see the actual balance and the currency that they have. So that's the balance part. Then now we'll create the actual content. So dot content. So here we've kept the heading of a description, basically what your account is going to be used for. So this description, again, we will retrieve it from what the user enters in. And we'll also have that button, if you remember, to add a transaction button. And for now, you can ignore this part that I added a bit extra. So yeah, now this is basically just, the description of what you have and adding a transaction button, which we will use to add transactions. Next on, we will create a simple table. Inside here. So for that, all you need to do is just use the table tag and give it a class name of your wish. And we now inside here, we've created a seed. So basically it will look like it's a horizontal list where it shows you the date, the object, and the amount, right? So this is what you will be able to feed in and ask the user that this is the date, what is the name of the object? So let's write here name instead, name of transaction, and the amount, basically how much you spent, right? And yeah, that's pretty much it for what for this page. And then again, to display the transactions that occurred, we will need another template, and that is basically empty. It's just an empty list that we have. So this is how it looks. Now, what will happen is the code we've written for this dashboard is it will show you, like, it will allow the user to enter in their details and things like that. But this empty template is what now the user will be able to see the actual things inside it. Now, let's go on and style this. So what is there? Okay, so we'll start by styling this dashboard page, and I'll just copy to make it easier. Dot dashboard page. And inside here, we'll again pass on some different styling. You can do it according to how you wish to have yours. But this is like a really simple and simple user interface that we will create. Now, this is for the header. Again, we're passing on just a background color and some padding space that we want. Now, this is one thing that I again want to draw your attention to. So this code that we've written here is going to be used to style the button, this button that we have here. So we basically want it to be on the right side of the page. It should have a small border and it should be clear, right? So that it matches the color of the navigation bar, or in our case, the header. Then next one, we will style the title of the page. That is this one. Yours could be a bit different if you like. And also for those of you who put logos onto yours, you can have a basic logo. So for mine, it's going to be just 60px. That is like really small. And I want it to be aligned in the middle of the navigation bar and have some padding space between each. So we've done logo. Yeah. So now we want to write code. We want to style this balance section. So for that, we'll just write again .balance because we've used class. So here we will give it a gradient, right? So you guys might have come across a simple background styling where it's just a plain color, but you can style it using this radial gradient. So this will create a round effect behind the balance part. So it's just basically styling it much better. Again, that's optional. If you want to do it, you could have it, or you could do it differently. Then next one, we'll start going inside. So we'll style this div in which we've passed it like the font color to be white, have some padding, and it should be capital letters. Then we will cover these span tags that we will use to pass data into it. So this is basically, again, just making the font size more responsive and giving it like a color white as its font color. Next, we will style this transaction title, which has the description of the banking project. And again, we've just given it a display flex. We've justified the content so that it covers the space in between and it does not have extra space, so that the title covers a good portion of the screen. Then we'll align the items to center, and again the general styles that we have written. And next one, we'll style the div, which again is basically the way I told you. We'll hide the overflow so that if the transaction title is too big, then it does not affect the other content that is around it. Then next on, we will go on and style this table that we have created here. So which is pretty simple. All you need to do is give it a good a width that can cover all the much that you need. And again, a responsive font size, good margins, and a background color. And we've used a seed. So we'll also style the seed. Now that is this part. So it will pop up to the user that, now fill in these details. So to give like a continuous experience, that is what we will style according to how it matches with our web application that we have created. Now also this is of that, just basically styling the background color. Now this is to cover the contents that are inside here. And this is for the transactions. So when we populate the list, the transaction list, we need to know how it would look. So that is what this part of the code is going to do for us. And these are basic stylings that I will share with you after this session. So yeah, again, we're just making it look good so that it looks like a table. And then while we do this, we want a dialog box that can pop up while the feed that, right? This feed that we've made, we want it to pop up on a dialog box. So this is the styling for a dialog box that we have created, in which we've kept like, we don't want any margins or anything. We want it to look continuous as well. So this is how you can style yours. Now, if you want to change the background color, you could change that here. And if you want to change animations, now, when you want it to, when the user taps it, you want it to look good. You don't want it to just pop up in front of the user. So for me, what I have done is I've added an animation. Then you could choose which side you want it to be. You could choose it to come from the left, move in from the right or bottom or something. So for us right now, we'll use it, we'll make it come from the top, and we've given it a delay of 0.3 seconds. And this is basic just styling, like it should come out easily and go in outly, like continuously. And when this again, we'll use it for JavaScript, where we will want to show the thing. Okay, does anyone have any questions so far? Okay, and to make the animations, you need keyframes, right? So for us, what we've done is we've done a slide from top, and this is how the keyframes are from for the slide from top. So we want it to come from up like negative 300 px. So which means it's like out of the page, and we want it to slide inside to position 0. So this is what will help us create animations. And if this is the first time you're seeing animations, then you should, this is just a starter. You can look up, you can do more awesome things with it. And yeah, we'll also just style in the dialog content that we've kept. And we'll also style the button. So it's basically, again, giving a color and max width. Now, you recall we've used this same max width with the login part. So it's just so that you don't go outside of the dialog box. And then we also want to just have our text centered. Now, you've seen this over here. Yeah, right. So it's just basically to make the text appear in the center of the page. And when we use this .hide xs, what we want it to do is it basically hides the data that we have over there. Now, so this is pretty much what we have done based on the styling part. Now, I want us to go more into the what is it called? The JavaScript part, and we will do that now. So for me, what I have done is I have created app.js. Sorry for that. Yeah. So for me, what I have is an empty app.js file, and we will connect that to the application, just basically how we normally do it. So now let's go on and write some JavaScript code that we will need for our project. So one of the things that I told you, I'll share with you the API server. So this server is what you will use to connect with your backend, right? So that you can get information from your you can get information from the form that we showed you at the start and use that inside the web application. So that's what this is. This is just where the server will open. And so now, while we work, one of the things that we will need is roots, right? So you've been to many web pages that show you how roots work. And roots is basically, you know how you've gone to Google, yeah, just Google, and then it says like google.com/XYZ, right? So for the user to go into this to this path is how we will need roots, and that is what we've done. So for us, our web application will have two roots, and that is dashboard and login. So these roots is basically links to where we have the dashboards, to the templates, right? Yeah, sorry, to the templates. You see, and this is basically just the template ID which we had written before. Now, the next important thing that we need to look at is update root. So we've created this function called update root function. So what this function basically does is it gets first it gets the path of where the user is. So for example, like if you're on Microsoft, right, it will be microsoft.com. So that's the path that is currently there. So first it will get the path. It will get the path of the location, and then it save it as a variable path. Then this route that we have created, the dashboard and login route, we're basically storing it under one variable that we can use. Now, the if statement that you've seen is if not in root, then return to the dashboard, right? So what this basically does is, you know how I showed you, like if ours is going to be like microsoft.com/dashboard, right? So if someone, let's say, types something different and not microsoft.com/dashboard, like let's say if I write microsoft.com/Manav, then this should not allow the user to access anything. And if they enter something wrong, like if they enter a wrong route, then it should basically take them back to the dashboard, right? So that is what our if statement is doing. Is basically if the user has entered a wrong route, then send them back or navigate them back to the dashboard. Now, while we're working with routes, while we're working with templates, one of the things that you need to take into consideration is first, the way Gregory had asked that, what is the empty div for? So what this part is going to do is, this is going to create a connection with the browser's DOM. I believe you guys know what the DOM is. So this will help us retrieve the DOM of the templates that we have used. Then this is basically just going to help us clone the div area. And now this is the main part that we will pass on the data in. So this is the empty div that we had created, So do you want to pass in the dashboard, or do you want to pass in the root? So this is what will determine, like this is where the data will be pushed into using the DOM. And this app.inner.html is basically we're replacing the content into this, we're replacing the template into the empty div. That's basically it. Yeah, and that's pretty much it for that. Now, while we're working with this, one of the other things that you need is a function called navigate that is here. So to do that navigate function, all you need is this. So this is basically just getting the path that the user has on their browser, and it will be used to determine, like, what is in the browser. Has the user written anything different, or is it what the routes that we have from here? So these are the two functions that we will mainly need. Next one, now we need, this is basically going to help you determine the routes, right? What you're rendering. But you've seen how we used forms we've used forms basically to allow the user to log in and register as well. So to create that interaction, we need to have a function with the API, the server I told you about that we will need. So this is the function that you need, which will just basically send a request. So the function is send request. Sorry. Yeah. So what this basically does is, this is the server that I told you. We don't write the whole server. We've basically just imported the server. So I'll share that file with you as well. So this function is just going to, what is it will help determine like what the request is and where it is coming from, right? So for example, we've written gate, right? So this we'll use this request function while we are trying to retrieve the transactions and display like what we have added. Then for the login part, we will have another function that is get account, in which we will pass user. So this is basically the username that we had written. It will be passed into this, and it will be sent as a request, like, you know, open this account and get the data of this account. And next one is the function for registering. So this one will show you like creating an account, right? So when you get data from the registering form, it will basically post into the accounts directory that we've created. So we've covered, you know, signing in, we've covered the registering. Now, the next thing that we need to take into account is creating a transaction. So if you remember, we had a button for this registration with add transaction, right? So when you click add transaction, we need it to, you know, we need it to first get your user details, and then we want it to save your transaction details under your account. So this will basically ensure that if, let's say, I open Abu Bakar's, if I open my account, you know, and I post the transaction, it should not go into Abu Bakar's account, right? It should stay within my account. So that is what that is basically what this is doing. Then the other concept is the other concept that we have is of states that we will use. So to create that, we will use, this is what we'll use. So we've created a constant state, and it's basically having the account as null. So if the user has not registered, the state will just stay null, right? Basically no state. And once you create an account, we need to update the state, right? So we need to know that this is where the account is for. So basically that's states as well. And another thing, states is really helpful in JavaScript, React, Node. So, you know, that's one important thing that you can also learn. Now we'll create a validation for the login part, and this is what is going to validate the login. So this function here that we've created, get account, that is going to get the user's account from the backend. But to actually know that does this account exist or not, so this is the function that will help us with that. I'm sorry, I'm going a bit fast because we're over time already. But yeah, so this is basically what that function will do. If you have any questions, please feel free to just type it in the chat. Then this is for the registering. This function is for the register form, in which it will take in the data and save it in as a JSON file. So that's what basically this register function does. And let's say if there's an error while you're registering, you know, if let's say you did not enter your username or you did not enter one of the fields correctly, then this function is also going to create an error, and it's going to inform the user that, you know, something is wrong. Now, the next thing I want to cover is the dashboard part. Sorry, dashboard. So all this that we've written so far is basically to first help us determine the routes and to make the login and the registration part work. Now we need a way to retrieve the actual data from the dashboard. And to do that, again, we will create two functions, as in more, but so this is update account data. So when you click on when you put your balance, you put a new balance. So this is the function that will help you, pass on your account balance and your details. And this refresh is basically to keep updating the account balance and things like that. Then we have another function called update dashboard. Now, this is what is going to get, it's going to get your description, your balance, your currency. Now, all this is from the form, the registration form that you filled at the start. So this is what that does. And then this part is to update the transactions. If you remember, we wrote a code that where the transactions will enter in once the user writes that. So this is the part that's going to help you update those transactions and put them, display them onto the HTML part. Now to this, sorry, I brought this up a bit late, but this is what you're going to use to enter the transaction dialog. So this will open the dialog and help you get to basically help you get add transactions into your transactions list as we saw before. Yeah, and this is what is going to actually display it and add it into a line. Now, usually if you're adding things, right, like onto a list, we need to ensure that it does not replace the transactions that are already there. So this is what will help us do that. Then this is basically going to help you confirm whether the transaction is in the right account and it's within the person's account that we need. Next one, we have cancel transaction. So this is basically if if you made an error, then you don't want to write that. So you can cancel that transaction and not show it. Then we have, of course, the normal function logout that helps, go back out, log out of the system. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Now, allow me to show you how to run this. Just a minute, guys. Okay, so all you need to do is, if you don't want to do it this way, you just navigate into the projects, what is it called? The project directory. And then again, we'll write, we'll start our server this time afresh because we've added some JavaScript updates. So we'll let we'll let this server start. And this is the API that I told you I'll share with you. It's ready-made. So all you need to do is just paste it into your folder and continue. Now, if you don't want to do it this way, it's a longer process. You have to keep building your everything again and again for the server. So we'll have two servers in our case. We have the front-end server and the back-end server. So the one that we'll run now is basically going to be the back-end server, and that will start on port 5000. Yeah. So this other one is ready, and as you can see, it's running. So this error code means it's a success. So now we'll go and view what we created. So this is the login page that we created. And as you can see, there is now this is the part of an overflow. So we'll create an account. Let's use Abu Bakr's name this time. Sorry if that's not how it's spelled. Then my journal. So this is basically what we made, and we'll give Abu Bakr some good money. So you see, this is now Abu Bakr's account, and he has this much money in it right now. So this has updated from the code we wrote, and this is the add transaction button that we have. So let's say Abu Bakr also bought burgers, and he spent $30 behind it. So you see, this has changed the balance. It has minused the money, and yeah, that's pretty much what we planned to do for today. So I'm just showing you like how if you've earned money from somewhere, then you can add it and your account balance would change. So yeah, thank you guys for attending. Do you have any questions? Abu Bakr, were there any questions?
I'm looking at the chat. I can't see any question. So I guess that means they have understood everything.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Thank you everyone for attending today's session. I hope you've learned something from it. So we have this series called Introduction to Web Development. And so we will be having them like every week. It's a combination of the peer-to-peer mentoring program and the Microsoft Learn Student Ambassadors program. So purpose to attend them, I'll be sharing the links and the advertisement for the events. So I'm seeing someone is saying Alvin here, not everything. Okay, so I'll share the recording and the GitHub link for the project to your email address and also to the WhatsApp group. I've shared the link to the WhatsApp group so you can join it. All the communication and resource will be shared in the WhatsApp group. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day.
Thank you, everyone. Again, thank you for attending. I hope you learned something. And